Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Stephanie Nodo, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you all today. Thank you so much for attending our live event, Mindful Eating, Enhancing Focus and Productivity in the Workplace. And for those who requested to get the replay, we truly appreciate your interest. So today we'll be exploring the fundamentals of mindful eating and how it impacts workplace performance. So what you will learn today is practical tips to incorporate mindfulness into your daily eating habits, strategies to improve focus, reduce stress, and enhance productivity through mindful nutrition, and discover the connection between diet, mental clarity, and overall well-being. So we'll be together for 90 minutes, and I'm very excited to share this time with you. So I'd like to introduce our experts today. Delphine Supanya-Berger is a wellness consultant and strategic advisor based in Bangkok, Thailand, although she's in Singapore today. She has expertise in designing holistic health programs for corporations, hospitality, and government sectors. She integrates mindfulness into daily routines to enhance well-being and productivity. Delphine blends traditional practices with modern innovations, focusing on preventive care and lifestyle changes. Her work has transformed organizations like Maslina Resort in Croatia and Banyan Tree in Thailand into wellness center environments. With deep knowledge of mental, emotional, and physical health, Delphine crafts strategies that build resilience and performance, drawing from a global experience and over 2 years spent in silent meditation retreats. Welcome, Delphine. I'd like to introduce now Dana Tiku. She is the founder and director of Aruj Ayur Health and Wellness in Singapore, with over 15 years of experience as an Ayurvedic physician and nutrition consultant. She specializes in managing metabolic disorders, gut health, skin and hair issues, and hormonal imbalances. Dr. Dana has consulted with hundreds of patients across Singapore and India. As a passionate advocate for health and education, she regularly conducts workshops, seminars, and online programs, empowering individuals to take charge of their wellness, well-being through Ayurveda and nutrition. Welcome, Dr. Dana.
Thank you, Stephanie.
And Deborah Marsh, she transitioned from a successful international education career to naturopathy, after realizing a need for a more fulfilling path aligned with her values. She studied naturopathy in Paris, completing a rigorous 3-year program covering over 30 subjects, including anatomy and nutrition. As a naturopath, Deborah specializes in plant-based nutrition, using her expertise to help individuals and families manage illness, support their body's healing, and maintain balance to prevent future health issues. Now based in the south of France, Deborah offers consultation in both French and English and is passionate about her work. Ladies, I'm delighted to have you and look forward to this inspiring session thanks to your expertise and your experience. Before we start, I like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, the Ujjivati Community Online Membership. Ujjivati is a supportive and nurturing space designed to help you on your well-being journey. By becoming a member, you will gain priority access to top health and wellness practitioners, personalized resources, and tools focusing on healing and self-development. It's a space where you can connect with compassionate experts and like-minded individuals, all while reconnecting with yourself and moving forward at your own pace. So today there is a special offer. You can join for $250 per year as part of our Expert Talk series from 20th September to 20th December. And you will become a founding member with extra perks. So one exclusive one-on-one session with our practitioners, direct access to founder with a virtual or in-person coffee chat when you join, and 2 free guest passes each year. For more details, you can email us at hello@ujjivati, and we'll be happy to provide more details. So let's start now with your with the interview. I hope everyone is doing well. So we're going to start, before we start diving into mindful eating, we're going to start with a brief definition of healthy eating habits. And for that, I'd like to refer to a study, a 2021 study that was done in the US. That found that unhealthy eating behaviors at night can make people less helpful and more withdraw the next day at work. And so this study focuses on short-term effects of unhealthy eating, which a lot of studies have done long-term effects. So Deborah, can you give us a brief definition of healthy eating habits from your perspective as a naturopath?
Well, thank you, Stephanie, and hello to everybody. I don't think it will come as any surprise coming from a naturopath that I recommend that we eat a whole, natural, minimally processed diet. That comes as no surprise. It's something that we see a lot all over on the internet. It's all the recommendations that we have. It's about balanced meals, but it's also in a naturopathic, and I see this a lot in my consultations, the importance of hydration. This is something that is often missed out in the recommendations of a healthy diet, how important it is to simply drink water. It's also about having an awareness of why we're eating. And I think this is something we're going to talk about a lot during this webinar, that as a naturopath, my role is to help people understand what the food does when it enters our body, why it's good for us, and why we should be perhaps changing our diets. So healthy eating, yes, it's about the individual food, but I think it's also about the mindset.
Okay, it's very true. Let's turn on to you, Dana, as an Ayurvedic physician. What is the Ayurvedic approach in terms of nutrition?
Thank you, Stephanie, for your question. And the approach to nutrition in Ayurveda is completely different because it promotes overall health, balance, and well-being, recognizing the interconnectedness of body, mind, and spirit. So that is the approach of nutrition according to Ayurveda. It considers various factors before we make any plan for an individual. That is, we consider each and everybody as a unique identity. So there's an individual prakriti, also the genotype of a person, which recognize that each person has a unique constitution. And based on the constitution, nutritional recommendations are tailored. So it is beyond your fats, your carbohydrates, and protein requirements. Yes, it is required, but each and everybody has a different requirements of it based on if it is an air body type, it's a fire body type, or it's a water body type. There are multiple things included in nutrition that also involves food qualities, quality of the food. It's heavy, light, sharp, hot, cold, what kind of food you are taking. What kind of food pairing are you doing? Whether, for example, fruit and milk, the smoothies are quite common nowadays that you take. But for example, in a smoothie, fruit has a sugar called fructose, but milk has a protein. The combination of this does not aid the digestion and leads to the aggravation of the body fluids, or you can also say toxins. So this is one of the examples. Seasonal eating also enhances the absorption of nutrition. For example, in winter, there is a air predominant in the body. In spring, there is a water predominance. In summer, there is pitta predominance. So research indicates that fruits and vegetable harvested in their natural season boost the nutritional value. So if you're taking food that is not seasonal, again, the nutritional value will get compromised according to Ayurveda. And the balanced food is definitely the one which contains the 6 tastes according to Ayurveda. That is sweet, sour, bitter, pungent, salty, and astringent. This is a plate having a balanced meal. Then comes the cooking methods, having the food which is fresh and wholesome. Meal timing also plays a very important role in the absorption of the meal. Digestive health plays a very important in the nutrient absorption of the food. And of course, the mindful eating. is very important to enhance and absorb the nutritional content of the meal. That is all according to Ayurveda approach of nutrition and a personalized diet that promotes balance and harmony in Ayurveda.
And thank you, Dana. And although both approaches are different, it's very holistic. It's not like, oh, we are not talking about just like healthy food in the term of like the food itself. What I like is that
Absolutely.
it's way more than that. And I think this is what is like the strength in both of these approaches and what you're saying. Okay, now I'd like to turn to Delphine. Delphine, for some people, eating means pleasure. And I'm originally from France. We eat a lot for pleasure. It's very important for us. For others, it means conviviality. Yet for others, food is just a way to survive. And I have a son, he's 17 years old. He eats to survive. There is nothing beyond. It's very interesting. So what is the relationship between food and mindfulness?
Thanks for the question, and thanks, Deborah and Darna, for what you said, Darna. I was especially inspired by some of the things you said, and some of some things you reminded me of that I have to pay more attention to, which leads me to eating and mindfulness. So actually, I think depending on what culture we come from, mindful eating will have different meanings. So I'm French and Thai, and mindful eating in both cultures means very different things. So Stephanie and I are both French, and Deborah lives in France too. And yes, the culture of eating and mindful eating has a very social aspect. It has this, and there's this respect of, honoring the person who cooked the meal and the love that they put in the food. And you can actually feel it. They prepare it. It's this whole, it's this all morning preparation for lunch. And there are so many dishes, and there's so much love that's put into it. So in France, I would say that mindful eating is about the love and the rituals that go into preparing the food for the whole the meal for the whole family, and how is breakfast made. And in France, we will start with the starter. It will generally be cold, and then we'll move on with like a warmer meal, and then in my family, my French family, we separated the fish and the meat. So we'd have a fish meal, and then we'd have a meat meal. And then in the more traditional cases, even we'd have the vegetables, the cooked vegetables after. And then we'd have some cheese, some salad, and dessert, right? And then they'll ask alcohol throughout the meal and at the end. So to me, like the link between between food and mindfulness in France is this rituals, is how do we prepare it. If I then look at Thailand, in Thailand, my family is very different. We have lots of different meals. There will always be 4 vegetables, 1 fish, 2 meats, a fried dish, a boiled dish, and some raw food and some cooked food, some fruits and pickled. Like we have lots of chili pastes and fermentations inside. And what is mindful eating there? It's sitting around the table in silence. When we eat, we don't speak. There is no social aspect to it. It's about, there's so many options, so that the mindfulness comes from looking at the food. It's all laid out on the table, and like, oh, today I feel like a bit of this vegetable and that vegetable and this meat and that fish, and I will combine it in my plate. Do I want carbs? Do I not want carbs? Up to me. No one will really speak to me about what I'm putting on my plate, as long as I'm eating and as long as I'm being conscious of what I'm putting in my body. And then sometimes we take a little portion. We'll take, in Thailand, we don't use chopsticks, we use spoon. So we'll take the middle spoon and put it on our plate, and it's a little bit. And if I want more, I will get more. Whereas in France, for instance, I would get a full plate, because my grandmother and mother and usually the women, but now also the men, have labored, and it's an honor to honor them and this preparation of the food. So I have to eat a lot more than in Thailand. So yeah, I think for the listeners, like, consider what mindful eating means in your culture first, and then there's inspirations you can take from other cultures. Like, I grew up in Singapore. In Singapore, we also eat a little bit similar to Thai, but sort of mixed with Western. And to me, it's always been a little bit confusing. Or or depending on whose household I go to, the different things. And so, yeah, like honor the people who cook the food for you. To me, that's the link between mindfulness and food. So I grew up as a Theravada Buddhist. We pray before we eat. And we pray inside in our hearts, and there is no formula. It's more like a gratitude practice of thanking the people who prepared the food. And I work backwards. I'm like, I thank the people who prepared it. Then I thank the people who went shopping if it's not the same people. Then I thank the people who at the store. Then I thank the people who delivered it to the store. And then I thank the farmers. And I try and think about every single person that contributed to the food being cultivated and then coming to my plate. And I also thank nature, of course, and nature for providing food. And all of a sudden, the food has different meaning for me because I'm respecting it. And so to me, the mindful eating, if I look at it from a cross-culture perspective, it's creating this sacred relationship of honoring the people and the food, and developing that personal relationship with food. And it's going to be different for each and every one of us.
Mm. That's very interesting. Delphine, I will just ask you, if possible, to bring your mic a little bit closer to your mouth, because I don't know, maybe if it's
Yes.
only me, but the sound was a bit more diffuse. But anyway, I could hear you well, and I think it's very interesting. In what you are saying is that there is the connection with the food, but there is also the story behind the food. Like who prepared it, where does it come from, like coming all the way to the farmer. So it's like more about and even like when you say, you know, like doing the prayer, it's really being connected and like in the present moment and having this relationship kind of like, you know, like with the food itself. So that's very interesting, because we're gonna start talking about at work. And at work, it's a very different environment. This is the topic of today. It's like the workplace, although it's, you know, home also, that's where it starts. But let's talk about eating at work. And so we all know the constraints at work. So we have a little time for lunch break. We eat at an imposed time. The portion sometimes mismatch our appetite. So here we talk about stress, issues with portion control, and also hunger cues. So which all contribute to obesity and other metabolic disease. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, but before that, I would like to refer to a study, 2021 studies that has done in the US, and found that 1 in 4 employees is too stressed to think about eating healthy at work. So according to this survey, and that exposed how work pressure have affected eating habits. So when they say too stressed to think about eating healthy at work, I think it's completely the opposite with what you're saying. Like we were talking about, you know, connection, we were talking about story, and like the fact of thinking is like completely removed. So this is really interesting, because we're going to see how we can reconnect with that, to this connection with the food, although we are at work. So I'd like to ask you a few questions, a little bit more specific, related to this aspect. So maybe we're going to start with Delphine. Delphine, how stress influences our eating habits? What are some of the relaxation techniques you recommend to reduce emotional or stress-related eating at work?
That's a really good question. I'm still figuring it out. I have some tools, but some days I'm good at it, some days I'm not. And I think that's like the main takeaway I have from teaching mindful eating for so many years, and doing workshops and trainings. It's actually, we have good days, we have bad days, and it's about accepting that on the bad days, well, we do the best we can, and on the good days it's a great one. And so going to the good day, I think ritualizing it. So again, mindful eating is and creating self-awareness around how do you actually like to eat. Some people like to eat with music. Some people like to eat in silence. Some people like to eat when talking. Some people like to eat alone. And so my first tip would be figure out what is ideal for you to eat. And it is not at your desk. So if it is not at your desk, where else can you go? Is there a space in your office where you can go eat? Is it a social thing, or if you want to be alone, like is there a place where you can actually sit alone that is not your desk? Some offices are designed that way, some are not. If you're at home, can you move away from your computer and go somewhere else to sit? And just that ritual is like step one. And then it's like, okay, once I have moved to the place where I eat, step two, what do I eat? Like ritualize it. And by thinking just about the rituals and steps of how you like to eat, like, oh, now I'm going to get my plate, and then I'm going to get my fork, and I want to put one fork on this side, and then the spoon or the knife on the other side, and then I'm going to unpack my food and take a little bit more time and pause to disconnect from work and start to really focus on the food. Are ways to actually de-stress, and you can use that opportunity to do it. If and then chewing is the most relaxing, the healthiest way to lower stress levels. I in temple, so I've done a lot of silent meditation retreats in temple, and also not silent meditation retreats in my life. And in temple, they ask us to take the spoon, bring it to our mouth, and then we have to put it down and chew. Whereas if I still have the spoon in my mouth, I haven't finished chewing, and I'm guilty of this when I'm really busy and stressed. And I chew 4 times, I swallow, and then I'll almost inhale my food in. So can you put your spoon down, or your fork, or I eat with the spoon mainly, which is why I say spoon all the time. But can you put whatever you're eating with down, and maybe close your eyes and chew and eat, and slow down and really think about, have I put too much in my mouth? Is that too little? If it's too much, can I put less? And start and have this different kind of experience with the food, because saliva actually is your first like the first step to your immune system is your saliva, and it's in your mouth. So chewing it will imbue your food of saliva. It will help pre-digest food. It will make it easier to digest. You'll have less gas. You'll be less tired, and you'll have less of that dip. And like 1 hour after eating, or I know sometimes I inhale my food and then I'm at my desk and oh God, I forgot to chew and I'm so tired now, and I don't drink coffee, and so it will avoid this. It's like this try and chew. If you have 20 minutes, eat less, chew, and you'll be fuller as well, and it'll be just a lot more comfortable. So I think those will be my main ones: make a ritual and chew.
Okay. So we were talking a little bit earlier with Deborah about crazy this week has been, and seriously, this week I was in preparation for this talk. At some point I realized that I was eating like crazy, and I was like, what am I eating? And it's like I was so lost in my thoughts about things I have to do, how I want to organize. At some point I stopped. I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm eating because I was completely disconnected. So it happens, that for sure it happens very frequently. But because I was also preparing this talk, this week I really tried to slow down and really try to reconnect to by lunch break, which was not easy when things like start to be very fast. At work, we tend to like speed up also, even when we are having lunch or we are having a break, it's very difficult to disconnect. So you said your tips, remove yourself from your desk would be number 1. So if you are at work, where can you go? If you are working from home also, can you change space? The second thing you say, it's like create rituals. And I think it is very, very nice, because I think this is also help you to really connect to the moment and to what you are doing, not like what I was doing this week. And then the last point would be chewing. Put your spoon down and then even close your eyes. Right? Okay. Deborah and Donna, do you want to comment about this?
Yes, and
So
I can
stress?
add to it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I certainly recognize this rushing around and stopping for a moment. I need to eat something, but I haven't got the time. I need to run. Just from a bit of background, as you said in the introduction, I came from the corporate world and I worked for 20 years in publishing in a very, looking back on it, manic culture. At the time, I enjoyed it. I hasten to add, if anybody listens to this who I used to work with, I loved my job. But it was always one mad rush. And I think I managed, in retrospect, I can now observe what the impact of that was on my body and what the impact, even though I thought I was eating healthily, I would go down to the canteen and I would eat the salad or I would eat their so-called healthy option. It probably wasn't doing as much good as I thought it was doing me, because then I'd rush back to my desk, throw it in as fast as possible and go to the next meeting, or still take it to the meeting with me. I'll also add that in that culture, most of it was working in the UK. And if there is ever a culture who is so far removed from what you described, Delphine, it is the British culture of eating. And then we go to the Americans. I don't want to criticize any nationalities, but we've just gone so far away from it. I also work from home a lot, and that was even worse, because when you work from home, there's no natural break. You just keep going. And I think in today's culture, there's a lot of advantages allowing people to work from home. But the biggest disadvantage from my point of view as a naturopath, and I see this a lot in my consultations, particularly with, and I see a lot of ladies, so I'll say the ladies who are working from home, they're the ones who created the worst habits, the most unhealthy. They think they're eating healthy, the salads, the pulses, the grains, but because they're not eating mindfully, because they're not relaxing at that time of eating, they're then coming to me and saying, but what am I doing wrong? What's going on? I'm eating everything I'm supposed to eat, but I'm not. Your body, and this will probably come down to a lot of the work you do, Dana, the body isn't working with the food. The body isn't able to work with it and give us the nutrients and the positivity. So there are a couple of things I did myself. And then I started doing desk yoga. So I started stretching and lifting my shoulders and rolling my shoulders, a little bit self-consciously when you're in an open plan office and everybody's sort of looking at you and thinking, what are you doing? But it's just that single roll of the shoulders, at least it opens up the chest and it helps. The other thing I do, and this is my personal favorite, is breathing. I recommend this a lot in my consultations, is to do a short breathing practice before you eat. So whichever the favorite, there's all sorts of breathing practices you can do, and we could do a whole webinar on it, but it just to spend a couple of minutes to bring the body down, to keep into balance before you eat. And the other one I used to do quite a lot when I worked in London, because I sat at my desk a lot, was just go for a walk. Just get up and just walk for a bit. Even if it does mean going back and having to sit at your desk, and I think sometimes we need to be a little bit realistic about the reality of working life when you haven't got much time in work, you've had that break, and at least you've given your body a bit of a rest, a bit of time, then to sit down and eat. And I personally find if I do that, I am a much more aware of what I'm eating, and I do eat a lot slower. So that's, but I do, and I see a lot, but working from home, I don't think we should forget the working at home aspect as well. I think that has more, my personal view, more disadvantages than advantages if we're not careful.
Absolutely. I really like what you said. So you say the desk yoga, breathing, yes, before you start eating, and then go for a walk. So any of these can be included in the ritual that Delphine was mentioning earlier. And also I was about to say, maybe also going for a walk before going to lunch as a way to stress down, and then have your lunch. Then you can maybe have more of a reconnection. So I think the walking can be before or after, but definitely.
But
Yeah.
just say I had like I've just got this mental image of myself going for a walk in the office in London. We were in central London, and it's usually raining because it's in the UK. So you could see me, and my walk was up and down the fire escape 3 times. I mean, there was nothing, there was no dormitory, but at least I was moving. At least I was away from my desk, and nobody walked up and down the fire escape. So I was on my own. I was able to actually. So it doesn't have to. It should be ideally out in nature, beautiful, but we have to be realistic about the situation.
I think thank you so much for mentioning that, because sometimes we have like, oh, ideally, and then we feel very frustrated because we cannot reach the ideal. Like we don't work by a park, or we don't maybe the office is not like a nearby, like a point where we can nicely along the river or something like that. So I think this is right. It's better to do a little something than nothing at all. So we are not trying to get perfect here, but we are just trying to improve our health.
There's always a fire escape.
Yes. Thank you so much, Deborah. Darna?
Thank you, Deborah and Delphina, and I totally agree with them. Based on their experiences, breathing is something very important in managing the stress. And just to get a bit deeper into, we should understand one thing, because as a Ayurvedic physician, when I let my patients know about what is the impact of stress, not only on your, eating habits, but overall, we have to first have a clarity of gut and brain connection, which is very common. And because I promote a lot of gut health, among my patients, we should know that there are 100 billion neurons in the brain, but 500 million is in our gut. So our gut is the second brain. That means when we are disconnected while eating, so our gut is also not able to function to its maximum capacity. So first thing important is we have to understand our physiology and anatomy a little bit more. Mindful breathing, if we know, has a very, very powerful impact on reducing the stress, like inhaling deeply, holding the breath and exhaling through the mouth. Just doing it 2 to 3 times while you're working, in middle of your work, when you're taking a break, when you have to get up from your desk, maybe going for a lunch or a tea break or whatever breaks you're taking. Just before that break, try to do this breathing practice, because once you're back, you might feel energized. Also, if you're not able to do it before, do it after. But I always recommend breathing exercises to be done on empty stomach. That is one thing. Second thing, the stress impacts most is your neck. And neck is the one which holds your upper cranium, that is your head. And the more your neck is getting bent or twisted, because we are on the screen most of the time, being it a healthcare professional, being in an IT field, now everyone is desk bound most of the time. And the neck issue creates a lot of imbalance in the circulation, not only on the head, because the moment the headaches, the aches, the pain in the eyes, dryness in the eye starts, that has an impact on your gut gradually. There's a very interesting scientific research based on sighing. Whenever you are going for an interview or there's something exciting or there's a talk like that, you sigh. It's a natural sigh. But whenever you are, in that bursts of stress you have in middle of the work, just do a sigh. If you don't know how to do a mindful breathing or to do alternate nasal breathing or any kind of breathing, just a deeper sigh 2-3 times is going to ease quite a bit of your workload, of your stress. Second thing, of course, is walk. Walk helps a lot in disconnecting with what we are doing throughout the day. And it also gives a refreshing air, a bit of different air to breathe in. And it gives your mind a different environment to, absorb things, absorb the environment, absorb or appreciate the environment around you. So short walks not only helps in, metabolic, enhancing your metabolism, but at the same time, refreshing your mind quite a bit. One thing which I have seen in many of my patients is meditation. I do recommend meditation to most of my patients, but I have seen a lot of them struggle. especially when it is new to them, and they find their mind is wandering even more after doing meditation. And this becomes a bit of stressful activity for them to do meditation. So what is the first thing I suggest them, which works best, is to start training your mind. How can you train your mind? Is to practice silence, sitting in a quiet room or in a park. The idea is to disengage your mind from the daily hustle bustle. Okay. Once your mind is trained to be stationed at one place, it is much easier to go to the next step of meditation. So you can do it at home, just 5 minutes disengaging, close the lights, keep the gadgets far away from you, sit for 5 minutes, do nothing. The idea is do nothing. Just let all your sensory organs be at ease for some short period of time. Okay. And what I also advise in the stressful eating, some people, if you tell them stop binge eating, they get into more of stress mode because they are habitual of eating. This stress mode increases their dopamine. This dopamine increases their stress hormones. So they want more dopamine, just to correct here. And to get more dopamine, they indulge more into savory, into snacking and all. So what we can do is giving them an alternative. Yes, if you're snacking, it's fine. Do a healthy snack. For example, take fruits, some nuts. I usually advise buttermilk, or seeds, which are rich in nutrients, are nutrient dense. Try to binge eat on such kind of foods rather than telling them to completely stop on binge eating. Okay? And hydration is definitely important. When a person is dehydrated, first thing, sometimes we get confused with the headaches is, you have stress headaches, but sometimes it can be because of dehydration. And dehydration can also lead to the dehydration in the intestines, in the gut, which can lead to least absorption of the nutrients, leading to more heaviness in the stomach. And then you might end up again having bad food choices. Okay. Especially for the people who are working in IT sectors. And in Singapore, I see sometimes they don't have, few moments for themselves during the work life. And especially those who are traveling, it's very difficult for them to manage certain things that we can advocate them. First thing is set boundaries, like don't take more than you can deliver. So sometimes we are so ambitious that we overdo things. We try to take on a lot of job on ourselves. And that actually ends up building up a lot of stress, especially for the people who are in IT, because they want to, grow in their profession. So this is something which I have seen in people who are in IT sector. So do as much as you can digest, not only in the food, but also work-wise, because work-wise, if you are not balanced, that is going to impact your gut health. That's going to impact your diet. That is going to lead you to more of binge eating. So these are the techniques from my end, based on my experience that I have seen over the period of time helping people in Singapore.
Thank you so much, Donna. So we have a few things here. There is the mindful breathing, mindful walking, and the connection with your nexo site is very important. You say also meditation. So if you don't know how to meditate, you can sit in silence. And I love to sit in silence. I've done that. And first of all, it's a bit weird because you're like, okay, what do you mean sit in silence? Sitting on a chair and thinking about something? No. Sitting in silence is really having this connection with the silence, and it's so good. It's really good. So this is a very good tip. Healthy snacks, that's a very good idea. When you have kids, you have a lot of things in like cookies or whatever. And even when you don't have kids, though, sometimes you also have that. So at some point I removed like everything, and I started to have only healthy snacks at home. So nuts, dries, apricots, mangoes, and things like that. So then I was like, okay, these are going to be my options. If I want to go for something, this is what I'm going to have available for myself. So healthy snacks is very important. You also mentioned hydration, which is very important. And the last thing you said is like to set boundaries. And also this is something that it's good for a lot of things. Setting boundaries is good for, even in your relationship. I feel that when you set boundaries, you allow to have a little bit more respect for yourself. And so when you want to like move away from stress and you set boundaries to have a little bit more peace, more respect for yourself. So I like the set boundaries. It's a very good idea. We can do that also for when we have lunch at work, to set boundaries. I watched something funny not too long ago about I think it was on Instagram or something like that, about someone was at lunch eating, and you also always have the coworker coming and then blah 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 blah, when just you want to eat your food and have some peace, and setting boundaries and saying like, okay, I'm sorry, but at this moment I just want to enjoy my food and have some quietness. And I think it's a way to set boundaries and then to respect yourself. Thank you so much, Dharna.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you.
So now I would like you ladies to share some tips and on how to recognize and differentiate between physical and emotional hunger to promote mindful eating. And I'm completely guilty of that, emotional eating. I've done that. Sometimes I'm like, I have to think about something at work. So what I do, I open the closet, I'm going to eat a piece of chocolate. It's just like that. It's like I have this emotion, I have to solve something. It's very automatic. So I'm really happy to talk about that. I just want to mention a study that has been done. So emotional eating is described as a tendency to eat in response to negative emotions, with the chosen food being primarily energy dense and palatable ones. This condition can be caused by different factors, such as coping with stress and other negative emotions, such as depression and feeling loneliness. So this study was done on Europeans, the European population. Many people responded to stress by increasing their food intake, because food is often a comfort in these circumstances. So it was very interesting. When we become, with emotional eating, not only we are making the wrong choice, but we tend to increase the quantity, which is not a good thing. So can you tell me how to recognize and differentiate between physical and emotional hunger to promote mindful eating habits? Delphine, can we start with you?
Yes, of course. Physical and emotional eating. If I have a physical hunger, I will generally have also a physical sensation. So my stomach will gargle. If I have this thing where I love beautiful looking food, and if it's not beautiful, then I don't really want to eat it. But this is me. But what I notice happens when I look at pretty or beautiful looking food is I will look at it and my mouth will start to water. If my mouth doesn't water, I'm not hungry. And so if I start to have saliva production, I'm actually noticing, I'm like, oh my God, I'm really hungry, and my body seems to be liking what I'm seeing, and so I can't wait to eat it. So that's for me more physical hunger. I've been especially for females, I've been looking at longevity studies and sort of the differences between female and male genetics, but also diets and exercise regimes. And right now there are many women on the call, but there's this doctor called Dr. Stacy Sims, whose books I've read and who I follow these days, who says women are not small men. And so saying this, like I tend to I like to exercise in the morning, and I will not be fasted. I will eat, because if I don't eat, and I'm actually hungry in the morning when I wake up, and I will honor and eat. Whereas there was a time where I was following these fast diets, and it's like, oh, it's so good to intermittent fast and not eat. And actually, I would exercise and feel so incredibly hungry after an exercise session, and that hunger would carry throughout the day. I would just feel hungry. And then I started eating more protein, not more fats, some carbs before I exercise. Actually, within half hour, I don't have to go and feel full, or I don't overeat in the morning anyway. But and then if I eat then and exercise, I'm not as hungry throughout the day. And then that would push me to the emotional eating. So then if I have a sudden craving for sugar, for bread, for I love sweet potatoes, so sweet potatoes. And then I don't want just one, I want like four. Then I'm like, okay, that's an emotional response. And so then sometimes on the good days, I will sit down, I will breathe, I will think about my emotion. Usually I will be angry with someone, a teammate, a client. I'm a consultant, so my day life and work life has a lot of problems to solve that make me quite upset sometimes. So I am aware of it, so I'm confronted with it a lot. Clients change their minds, I don't know what they want, and then I have to redo everything, um, or we make appointments that are not held because in Thailand people don't care about being on time so much, or even showing up so much. So, and then, and so that there's constant. So I know that my life has these stress factors, and because I know that I've created this awareness of, well, okay, when I'm emotional eating, I go to 1, 2, 3, 4. When I'm hungry, doesn't matter. Yeah, I eat what I feel like eating. So I guess if you're asking yourself, well, am I emotional eating? Am I not emotional eating? Ask yourself these questions like, how often are you hungry? What are you hungry for? Um, and uh, and 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 um, and then become aware and create this different kind of relationship. And if you are emotion eating, can you add a step before? I'm a very systematic person. Like I start my day, I'm like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. I am like this. So to me, this works. Like first I do this, then I do that, then I do that. And so if you are a systematic person, have your little things, and then see like, okay, does that establish some emotional stability? If something goes wrong, does it make you very, very upset? And then do you eat? No. And so learn more about yourself. And it doesn't take that much effort or time. You probably already have an idea just listening to me of how you are with food, and then yeah, manage your cravings in this way. That's what I would say about emotional versus physical.
Thank you so much. So Delphine, you said to recognize the physical signs and listen to your stomach, be mindful about what's going on in your mouth. And it's true that when we eat less, the stomach is going to say like, hey, hello, I'm here. It's time to eat now, but when we don't think about it, it's like my stomach is barely making any noise. It's just because I don't pay attention. So the physical signs, honor your body. So this is very interesting because I like to exercise. I'm connected with the fitness world and all that. And something that I learned is that you don't have to exercise 1 hour a day. If you want to do 30 minutes today, you do your 30 minutes. If it's going to be 1 hour tomorrow, then you do 1 hour. If it's going to be 45 minutes the next day, you do the 45 minutes. Sometimes we are like, oh no, I need to do 1 hour to exercise, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's like, listening to your body first. Let's see what your body says, because there are some times when we are very tired. What's the point of doing 1 hour of exercise when we are super, super tired? There is absolutely no point. So the last point you say is like awareness, which is something that is very powerful. once you know and you learn how to develop it, it's very powerful, and know yourself. Something that's going back to the physical sign, something that I learned in Ayurveda, maybe it's through you, Dana, is that in Ayurveda, we don't eat at a certain time. We have more connection with your body when the body is hungry, rather than, I mean, in France, usually it's going to be like, breakfast is like, around 6:30, 7. Then there is the lunchtime, 1, and then dinner time, 8. That's it, guys. So I like to do the Ayurvedic approach. Maybe Dana will share with us even more than that. But thank you so much, Delphine. I'm sorry, Dana, I don't think did we hear you on that topic?
Sorry, no, I haven't spoken about
Okay, go ahead.
Difference. Okay, great. So Ayurveda differentiates physical and emotional hunger in a very specific way, with which you can understand, and you can know the cues that, okay, this is a physical hunger and this is an emotional hunger. One way is the physical hunger is of gradual onset. That means once the previous meal is getting digested, you will feel a bit of hunger in the stomach with a gurgling sound, or you feel lightheaded. That is the first symptom of physical hunger. But emotional hunger can be triggered suddenly. It can be triggered by emotions, as we say, for example, stress. It can be boredom, it can be sadness, it can be grief. And there is no specific physiological sign that you will get, but it's mostly an emotional onset of the hunger. Then the other thing you can see, as I said, the bodily sensations, that in physical hunger, you have to pay attention to the cues, as I said already, is you feel low in energy, and the stomach is churning very badly. And it occurs usually 4 to 5 hours before the previous meal is digested. If your digestion is good, your earlier meal will take at least 4 to 5 hours to digest. Okay, you can keep a time. Okay, even if you're not able to see the hunger pangs, you can say, okay, it has been 4 to 5 hours, my earlier meal. Now it's time for me to have my meal. Okay, the reason is sometimes they won't get the physical signs, they are too engrossed in their work. So they are not able to understand that they are hungry. So always keep a tab. 4 to 5 hours after your first meal, you can have the second meal. And physical hunger, you will have a specific craving. You're not a craving. You can go for, you can go for any kind of food. That means if you have, nearby restaurant is a rice or veggies, there is a burger or there is a patties. I'm not promoting that, but any kind of food, you will be able to digest and will be satisfied with it. But if it is an emotional hunger, you will have an affinity towards a specific kind of taste. Either it will be towards too much sweet, salty, savory, spicy. There will be specific cravings for specific tastes in emotional hunger. So that we have to understand. If it is just that, then definitely it's an emotional hunger. And in physical hunger, usually you feel completely satisfied after eating. And you are not overly full, you're completely satisfied, you are energized after the meals, and you go. But for emotional eating, it's a temporary relief. That means, let's say you had a stress and you ate a whole bar of chocolate. After 1 hour, again, you will feel hungry. Okay, because it was just an emotional signal to have something to pacify your stress. Okay, but the hunger is not satisfied. The physiological hunger is not gone. So emotional stress is very temporary. Emotional hunger is very temporary, and it also satisfies you for a very temporary period of time, short period of time. And physical hunger, as I have been constantly saying, it's most likely that you experience physical hunger after several hours of first meal. Okay, this also depends on person's appetite, person's metabolism, person's digestion, person's state of digestion. That means if a person is a fire type, air type, or a water type, everyone will have a different way of digesting food. But your body, understand it. Over the period of years, we know our body more than anyone else. So if you have digested the previous meal, then only you go for the next meal. Okay. Even for the emotional hunger, as we say, even if the body is not signaling any physical signs, you will definitely want to eat again, is again an emotional disorder. So by learning and recognizing differences between physical and emotional eating or emotional hunger, you can promote the overall well-being. And I think these are the specific points, with which you can definitely understand the difference between physical and the emotional eating.
Oh, thank you so much, Dana. So you said, so we are going back to the physical signs. You need to really address the physical signs. Is there any physical signs? Your body will have some sensation and cues for you. What you mentioned is I think it's a very good tip. See if you are within that time frame, the 4 to 5 hours. So if you are hungry, for example, 2 hours or something after your meal, this is most likely to be emotional. It's not going to be hunger. So this is a good tip, something to keep in mind. When you are hungry, you will eat any kind of food, and that's true. Sometimes when we are hungry, we say, "I could eat anything." We are so hungry, okay, give me anything, I can eat anything, because we are super, super hungry. And then when you eat something, see if you feel, you should feel fully satisfied when you listen to your body, and when it's not emotional eating. All right. Thank you so much. So now my last question.
Sorry, Stephanie, I would just like to add, I'm so sorry, I would like to add here, because there are a lot of patients who don't, it's very surprising that they don't know when they are hungry. So they have no idea of what hunger is, or they are clueless about it. They are not self-aware. So these are the few points which I usually tell my patients is, gurgling in the stomach, churning of the stomach, lightheadedness, lack of energy. So these few things are very important for anyone who does not experience hunger due to any reason. They can be given this point to understand it.
Okay, thank you so much, Dana. Can you now offer a practical advice on how mindful eating can prevent overeating and help make the right decision with portions to maintain a good energy level throughout the day? So, Delphine, do you want to answer this one? Oh,
maybe we give it to Deborah because she hasn't answered the question before.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So maybe she can start. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, Deborah.
Sure, I'll take that one. I just wanted to sort of reiterate quickly what Dana said about people coming into our practices and actually not being aware of the differences between the hunger, or when they are hungry, and the emotional eating. And this come back to a point that we raised earlier about this disconnect we have now with what it is to eat and why we're eating. And I think when I have somebody comes into my practice, the first thing that I talk to them about is their relationship with food. And I think this comes down to sort of the practical tip is, what is your relationship with the food? Is it something that you enjoy? Is it something that you're interested in? Or is it something that you just is keeping you busy? As I said, going back to the office, observing and thinking about my colleagues in an office back in London. I'm going back 15 years now. But I had colleagues who would have a drawer full of biscuits and then they think, actually, biscuits aren't good for me anymore. I'm going to replace it with nuts. I'm going to replace it with seeds because that is good for me. But they're still putting on the weight because instead of a small portion of nuts, they're eating the whole bag of nuts. So it's having that awareness, and that I think is probably the most challenging part for anybody, is they want the quick tip. They want the quick fix. How can I suddenly become this healthier version of myself than I am before? So I mean, it was both Delphine and Dana, you said a couple of times. I just want to reiterate it, that actually learning, understanding our relationship with food is, for me, the first step with mindfulness. And then it comes back to, what is that tip to eat less, to stop overeating? I mean, Delphine said about chewing. I'm the worst offender. I'm always in a rush for something, and I have to physically stop and say to myself, for goodness sake, Deborah, just chew a few more mouthfuls before you go on to the next one. Yes, I mean, we don't put our spoons down, we put down our knife and fork, but it's the same principle. Is to stop. I've suggested this in my consultations, and the problem is, I'm actually sort of repeating almost word for word somebody I had at the beginning of the week, is that my colleagues eat very quickly. So if I don't eat quickly, they finish before I do, and I'm left on my own at the table. You know, and so they feel they have to eat quickly because of their colleagues. So again, it's the whole social interaction. I'm eating quickly because I want to eat and keep up with everybody else who's around me. And I think, although the French, when I moved to France 20 years ago, I always loved this idea of the long midday break from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I love the idea of 3 courses and taking my time. That is beginning to go, really sadly. I see many people now grab their sandwich at their desk. It's far too quickly. The other thing is that to think about your breakfast. I know you asked me about the snacks, but think about what you've had before you get to work. What have you eaten before you get to work? I know intermittent fasting, so for some people, intermittent fasting works very well. But if you wake up hungry in the morning, like you said, Delphine, then you really should eat something, because you've digested throughout the night. Your digestion is particularly fast, or as fast as others. And intermittent fasting might not be for you on work days, for example. It's all about that individual. But if you're suddenly finding yourself hungry at 11 o'clock, what did you eat for breakfast? The same is at lunchtime. You know, what did you eat for lunchtime? Do I need to snack at 4 o'clock? Because why am I snacking? Why am I eating so much at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock? Because again, what did I eat at lunchtime? And again, that sort of to prevent overeating. So, well, looking at the first one, why am I eating this? You know, what time is it? How long ago was it since I last ate? Why am I eating this? Is it really going to be a pleasure? Or am I going to feel guilty once I've eaten that 3 bars of chocolate that was sitting in my desk? But I've never seen so much chocolate in an office as I did when I worked in London. The chocolate drawer, it was called. And it became a real joke, the chocolate drawer. Who had the biggest drawer full of chocolate? I sort of understand now, you know, why I felt so bad after a full week's work. You know, by the time I got to Saturday, don't give me any more chocolate on the weekend.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for that. How can we prevent overeating? Dana, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that. So to prevent overeating, there are a few steps or a few simple tips that might help people to curb the cravings of overeating. So first thing is, as you all mentioned earlier, like when we are in a co-working space or working with our colleagues and all, and you're on a, you know, having your own peaceful time of having your meals, and somebody comes and barges that completely distracts you. That is the first tip, is to slow down, take your time while eating. That is very important, because when you are too much preoccupied, you end up chewing very fast or not chewing at all. Again, which Delphine and Deborah already have highlighted earlier. So when you're not giving enough emphasis on chewing and your digestion starts from your mouth, saliva has an enzyme ptyalin which breaks down the food in the mouth, and it does not get enough time to, you know, completely mix with the saliva, and you're not chewing, swallowing it, that is done. That is creating a lot of gut issues. So slow down while eating. Take your time, and when you're eating slowly, you digest it well. It is releasing a proper amount of nutrition. It is releasing proper amount of energy. You don't feel the craving to have multiple meals a day or multiple snacking a day. Then again, distractions is the same part of it. Keep away your distractions. Keep away your iPhones, your gadgets. That is very, very important. Mind and gut are very heavily interconnected. And if either one of the connection is off, either one of this is going to fall into the trap of health issues. So it's always better, keep your gadgets away, focus completely on your food, enjoy each and every morsel of food that you're taking, understand the taste of the food that you're chewing, understand how is it impacting you afterwards, so that eliminating the digestion itself is such a wholesome activity while having the meals. And that will allow you to listen to your body. We are not able to listen to our body. We are not able to understand the hunger is because we are not listening enough. And that is because we are distracted with a lot of other things than ourselves. Okay. And using smaller plates also helps. Keeping the portions, keeping the plate small will also enhance to you to encourage you to keep the portions very limited. And if the portions are limited, you're chewing properly, you're giving enough time, you will feel satisfied with that amount of meal itself. Okay. And I also advise a lot of my patients to plan your meals, because sometimes it is a random purchase of food, because the problem is over availability. There's so much in the market nowadays. There's so much availability that you're never short of choices. But if you are planning your meals ahead, a balanced nutritional meal, proper portion of your grains, whole grains, your fiber, your proteins, your carbs, your fats, if you're planning it ahead, it makes the choices easier. Because if you're hungry, you're going out and trying to see, sometimes you might make a bad choice. As we said, we can eat anything, but that is not the point. The point is we have to eat something which is valuable to our body. Okay. And the other thing is staying hydrated. Okay. Because sometimes hydration or dehydration can be mixed up with hunger. So if you're taking enough amount of water, you will not get confused with thirst and the hunger. That is very important. A lot of cultures across the globe had this practice of paying gratitude when the meal is on your table. Paying gratitude is nothing to do with spirituality. Paying gratitude actually brings your mind to the table. You know there is something on the table which you are appreciating, which is going in your body, which is going to nourish your body. So paying gratitude before, it's just thanking the plate, seeing your plate and being happy, seeing your plate and then consuming it. It enhances the connectivity of yours to your meal. Then reflect on your choices is very important, what you're taking. If you feel lethargic, lack of energy after eating the meal, even if it is nutritious, then there is something wrong in metabolizing such kind of meals. So try not to go for the same kind of meal later. Okay, try to have the meals which keeps you fully energized, keeps you very active, and you feel completely satisfied after the meal. Go for such kind of foods. That will be, my tips for how we can manage it.
Thank you so much, Tama. And I think these are very good tips. I'm going to quickly go over them. Slow down. So we've been talking about that, along this conversation. The second thing that you said we haven't mentioned yet is keep away your distraction. And it's true. I think we need to put the cell phone in another room, or in the drawer if you are at the office or something like that, because once it's near us, it's very automatic. We pick it up, we see the notification, what's going on, and then we check. The choice of a smaller plate, pick something valuable for your body. So we're going to talk about making the right choice. Hydration is very important because sometimes, yes, we do confuse it with hunger. Being grateful for what we eat. And I like the last point, which is reflect over your choice. And it's true because sometimes, and it's a way to get ourselves to know ourselves better. It's a way to eating smaller portion next time, bigger portion, or something like that, to look back and then reflect and then make changes if we have to. Sorry. So
I just want to add something that
yes,
that has really helped me and then quite a lot of people who give these trainings to is we live in Asia and what we suggest is buy yourself a bowl. It doesn't have to be a small rice bowl, actually a bowl that is a little bit bigger, and have that at your desk if you're working at the office, or have it at home. There's like the bowl from which you will put the food that you've bought from outside into, but more Asian style, where I in Bangkok I hardly cook because food is so accessible and it's actually even much cheaper. And so I would buy several dishes, and then I will take only the portion that I'm going to eat into my bowl. I will eat that. I will try and put my cutlery down. But even the fact, if I'm eating fast, if I'm constantly having to transfer from the takeaway box to my bowl, I slow down. And I'm actually choosing. So I've been choosing chopsticks because I can grab less with my chopsticks. It's really practical. So I grab with my chopstick, I grab one item, I put it into my bowl, I put it into my mouth, and then I will grab the next one, and I'll be like, oh, right now this ingredient will follow quite nicely to like this piece of chicken I just ate, and I'm gonna now add like some pumpkin, and then afterwards, I'm like, oh, that piece of green bean has a sauce, and then I'm gonna have that experience, and so just get a bowl to transfer from the plate. And even at the restaurant, I bring my bowl. People think I'm weird, but I don't care anymore. And I bring my bowl and my chopsticks, and I actually do the same. And they'll prevent me from overeating. So this is very, 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 very practical. And it's really, really helpful.
This is a very good advice. First of all, because yes, then you can see the quantity, how many times you're going to transfer the food to your bowls, and then you're going to realize, oh my God, I had already 3 bowls of like, this thing. And even sometimes you can even bring your, like your Tupperware or to the restaurant or to the food stall where they can fill it up. So if you have the container, then they put the food inside, then that's it. That's going to be your portion. So this is also, I really like that, a good way to control portions. What you say about the chopsticks, it's true. Sometimes you're like, oops, like, like if you eat something like this difficult with chopstick, yes, you're going to chew a little bit longer. It's going to take a little bit more time. So it's going to be like a challenge, unless you master the chopstick at some point, but it takes time. So by then you have the idea that you have to slow down. Thank you so much. Delphine, Deborah, I think you wanted to add something.
It was, as Delphine said, I had something to add. It was along similar lines, but what happened, again, working in London, the culture was to run outside and buy a sandwich and come back in, and in the box and in the packaging, it looked quite nice. The way they package it is because you buy your sandwich. And so I started, I had my own plate. I had this really lovely plate, and as soon as I took it out, all my colleagues was making comments on, what a beautiful plate, where did you get it from? And I felt, this is my plate. And I would put the sandwich on it, realizing very quickly that it wasn't quite as attractive as I thought it was when I put it in the box. And then thinking, okay, I'm going to add salad to this. I'm going to add something else to it to make it much more attractive on the plate. And it's really taken out of the packaging that you've bought something quick and you put it on your plate and you don't realize it's quite as attractive. You very soon decide, well, I need something else to this. But having your own bowls or your own plates or your own, and transferring what you've bought from the outside, the takeaway, I'm thinking of the London culture here, and putting it on and taking it out of the packaging, it really does make all the difference.
Thank you so much. These, I think, they are all great tips. I'm gonna move on to the next question, but before that, I will go back to another study about it was done in the UK, and it was about skipping lunch. Work pressure and inflexible working hours are causing an average of 2 employees in every UK small business to regularly skip lunch. I think this is terrible. I think it's better to eat not something like something not that healthy rather than to skip lunch. So we don't want to skip lunch because it's very important, but we want to make sure that we pick the right items. We make the right decision. So for my next question, whether we bring our lunch box at work or we are going out for lunch, what kind of food can help us with clarity, focus and overall feeling better with the rest of the day? And can you please also include snacks? So because I'm mindful about the time, I'm gonna combine both questions. So yeah, making sure that we are picking the right items. What are this kind of food that help us to keep the energy for the rest of the day instead of like skipping lunch? Should we start with Dana?
Yeah, Stephanie, sure. I will quickly go through it because of the time constraints, but I will try to justify everything here. So first thing, whenever you're taking lunch, I would suggest that people should keep few things in mind. That does it have whole grains? Does it contain lean proteins? Like it can be tofu, it can be chicken, it can be fish, it can be lentils, fresh beans. Does it have healthy fats? Ghee is one of my favorite ones. But apart from that, avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil. Okay. And make your lunchbox as colorful as it can and mix of all the tastes, as I suggested earlier. So if you are incorporating multiple vegetables, spinach, kale, bok choy, beets, pumpkin, carrots, that itself is a mix of multiple vitamins and essential nutrients for the body. And if it contains all the 6 tastes, is even much better. And for you to feel very light at work, if you are really looking forward to it, I would definitely suggest once in a week, a person must do fasting. That is a complete detox for mind and for body. And you will feel definitely energized after you do the fasting. Okay. Fruits is very, very important in your lunch. If you're, able to get some fruits, very helpful to keep your energy up, to boost your energy naturally with the natural sugars. And buttermilk. Buttermilk is a traditional form of removing the butter from the yogurt. It's highly appetizing, great source of proteins, great source of probiotics, and very, very essential for the gut health. If you just take a little bottle or a little cup of it with you, will enhance your digestive system. And do not forget to take warm water throughout your day. That enhances your metabolism, that enhances your digestive system. Any blockages in the gut or the large intestines, or you feel constipated regularly, that is going to ease it out properly. And shall I say the snacks also along with it?
Yeah.
So there are a few snacks that I would advise, and I usually advise my patients based on their body types. But since not everyone will be knowing about their body type, let's go for a general one. I usually advise them to keep a mix of spice nuts. Because when we take nuts without something which enhances the absorption and digestion and breakdown of the nuts, sometimes it might give you bloatedness. So roasted nuts, seasoned with cumin, turmeric, black pepper, are kind of an energizing snacks and good source of proteins and fats, natural fats. The another thing is roasted chickpeas. Extremely good source of protein. It will make you satisfied for longer hours of the day. You will feel satisfied. You will not go on binge eating after having this kind of a snack. Another thing is a lot of people make it at home, but if you can get energy bars without preservatives, making at home with a mix of blended dates, nuts, and spices, and you can carry it along with you for the burst of energies, natural energy, and will keep your hunger under the tap. Roasted foxnut is something which I usually advise my patients. Roasted foxnut with seeds, which are good source of omega-3 and omega-6, omega-9, are flax seeds and pumpkin seeds. So these are the few snacks that I do advise my patients on the regular basis during the diet consultations.
Okay, thank you so much, Dana. So we said full or meals that contain whole grains, healthy protein, and healthy fats. Make your lunch colorful. Do fasting once a week. Eat fruits and buttermilk. Something that I love, and I've carried that with me now that I moved back to Europe, is drinking warm water. And going to the restaurant here in France, everybody serves cold water, but I always ask, do you have room temperature water? Always, always, always. So we are starting a trend. So this is a very good advice. Snacks, so you recommend spiced nuts to help with digestion. That's something that I'm going to do because I was not doing that before. I would eat nuts, but I'm going to add the spice. Roasted chickpeas and homemade energy bars, so with no preservative. Deborah?
Yeah, I think, Dana, you've covered most everything that I was going to say. I mean, essentially, it's whole food, it's as fresh as possible, it's local, it's seasonal, and to stay away from the heavier sort of carbohydrates and the processed food. I'll just add something from my own experience working in the corporate world. What was complicated, especially early on in my career, because I did enjoy the business lunches, I mean, because it was a free lunch. And in a business lunch, the last thing you really, and they go back to work in the afternoon and you really don't feel well because you have just gone for the heaviest, most carbohydrate-full meal that you could possibly can. Towards the end of my career, when I suddenly became a little bit more aware of what was happening, I tended to order a couple of starters as my meal. Everybody thought I was a bit strange, but just IQ Delphine, I thought, I don't care. I need to get through the rest of the working day. And often the starters in a restaurant, and I've traveled to quite a few countries, but often the starters tend to be lighter, tend to be fresh, and tend to be more plant-based. They tend to be. So my main meal when I was working, if I was in a business lunch, I would always go with the starters. And also when you're eating fresh, you have to chew more. You can't just swallow it down. So there's more mindfulness there as well. So that would be what I would add to everything, all the very good advice you've given, Dana.
Thank you so much, Deborah. So you say whole foods, fresh, local, and seasonal. I love the seasonal. This is really, really important. It's better for the environment as well. And also your tip was to order starters. I've done that. I like it. It's lighter, fresher, and often plant-based. That's true. They have more options with the starters. Thank you so much. Delphine, do you want to add your preferences?
Thank you. Yeah, everything that Darna said is so true. But we have started to really see, especially for women, if you eat more protein, especially in the morning, you are no longer hungry during the day. And I can't really stress this enough. And there are more and more studies coming out. Dr. Stacey Sims is leading a lot of those from Stanford and in New Zealand as well. Like you can check her out. Like she's amazing, and this advocation for eat more protein as a woman from the morning. Like I went from having a simple drink and a carb to eating 3 to 4 omelette eggs with vegetables. Like I need to eat astringent, so I have Bittergourd in the morning with my omelette. But it depends on your body type. Like if you're interested, find out as well what your body type is. Like it's really changed my life. Like Ayurveda's really truly changed my life. And eat more protein in the morning, then you won't feel like you have to snack. And yeah, like just more protein. Women tend to not eat enough protein. And when the protein intake is low, sugar cravings are higher. We want more carbs. We want more sugary stuff, sweets, or if you're on a different body type, you crave salty. Like it's either or, right? And just more and more protein, whatever like kind of protein, if it's animal or plant based, but really think about and educate yourself on what sources of protein do I have, and just eat more of those, especially as women.
So Delphine, I'm so happy that you're saying that, because just in September I switched to have I mean, it was from like, you know, toast and, you know, some or like a yogurt or fruit or something like that in the morning, and I switched to eggs, avocados, even some, you know, some cheese, something like that, and I made a switch. It's not easy. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, I feel like eating something sweet, but I try to really like make the change. And so I cannot say that I have felt, but definitely I feel more energized. This is what I've felt so far. I need a bit of time to see all the changes that I can see, you know, in my energy, my body. But this is something that I approve now. Yes, and I've tried. So thank you so much for saying that. So I know that we have a few minutes before the end of our conversation, and so this is going to be more about the employer side. So it all starts with a first step, you know, anywhere, and we talk about the employees here. But I would like to, what will be some ways for employers to allow mindfulness to enter the employees' lunch habits? So I would like to switch sides a little bit. So maybe we can start with Delphine for that question.
Yes, with pleasure. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
we run lots of educational workshops on mindfulness, eating habits, changing habits, and how to. And just because we often notice, and I'm in Thailand now, and I think it's even worse than when I was doing it in Singapore. People really are not that educated, and even though there's so much available online and with the internet, everything's at the touch of fingers almost, but people are not that educated on how on practically how to include more mindfulness. And so having companies organize more experience-based, practical, instead of only theoretical talks, that there really needs to be a shift from instead of having, you know, and those are done over lunch, where lunch is eaten as they're listening to us. And so what we've moved from doing is having us doing a presentation, watching the people eat, to actually, okay, let's do it all together. We're sitting, we're going to do the gratitude practice, we're going to do the prayer, we're going to look at our food, we're going to engage our senses like smell, taste, like the visuals, the sound of food, even if you squish a sandwich, for instance, or you touch your salad leaves, what sound does that make? Be a bit more playful, pause, and make that whole educational talk about mindful eating actually an experience instead of just a talk. And it's like learning by doing. So I think that is one. And then just give people lunch. You know, just give them the lunch hour. And encourage, like I've worked with quite a lot of like more recent companies, and so they're in the startup space, maybe 5 years, 7 year startups, to have actual guidelines and policies that they draft and say, hey, you know, from this time to this time it's lunch. You're not expected to work and write it and write it in the policies, and have HR remind them at the onboarding.
Oh. Delphine, I don't know if you can hear us, but I think we lost you. Okay, let's go to
Am I frozen?
Oh, Delphine?
Have I disappeared? Yes, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
yeah. So yeah, sorry, can you say your last sentence? You're back. Welcome back.
Yes, so the other thing is training the managers or colleagues to enforce the policies and the guidelines. Like, hey, you're working and eating, stop it. And this is all culture. So it is one thing to do talks, it is one thing to write guidelines, but the culture needs to be enforced and applied, and we are responsible for each other to keep that up. And so we've also offer trainings where we train people to be more daring and enforce healthier, more mindful culture. So those are suggestions, but it comes through education first, policy second, and then culture third, and enforcement of that culture would be number 4.
Thank you so much. And I really like what you said about like these workshops that you are running, and then touching the food. I think in some culture, that's something that we see. You know, people that eat with the fingers, and I think this is a very good way to have a strong connection with their food. But it's not possible everywhere. So going back to that, I think it's a very good way to help people to reconnect with the food. Deborah, do you want to add anything on that, please?
Yeah, having sort of lived through the culture or the business culture where meetings were booked in over lunchtime, you just bring your sandwiches with you. It is definitely lead by example. It's definitely from the employer's point of view, or the manager, the senior managers, if they're in a big organization, just simply don't book those meetings over lunchtime. Let people have their lunch. The lunch hour is sacrosanct. I mean, it is here in France, much more so than it is in the UK. In the UK, it was, you just kept going. It was from 9 till 5, 9 till 6, but there was, the lunch hour was nominal. So you just have to have that lunch. And that would be my important one. But then as a manager, because I was a manager, when I realized that when I started eating more mindfully, when I started thinking about what I was eating, then my team tended, not all of them, but they tended to ask me questions. So why was I doing this? Why was I sitting in this room all on my own having my lunch rather than going down the pub and having a beer with my lunch? So I started to lead by example. But then that comes back to what Delphine said. It's all about education. It's education, it's culture, and it's in some companies, especially larger companies, it's a big change in mind shift. It's big.
Thank you, Deborah. Dana?
I do agree with Deborah and Delphine on this. Education is very, very important. If you don't have the basis of why they are doing or why they have to do certain things, maybe people will not be as interested as when they are educated about it. And I think here comes the how to feel your food. Feeling the food is also very important. You touch, you sense it, you have it. So here I would say if the companies, they encourage, as Delphine also said, mindful eating workshops, what they are conducting as well, that would definitely enhance and educate people on why is it important to do so, and also to create a calm environment while during the lunch times for the employers. I would also add on to it because I'm very active in doing the workshops. I would also highlight here that cooking is something which connects a person with the food very well. The aroma of it, the colors of it, the how the food is being processed. All that, first of all, is very relaxing and meditative in itself. And at the same time, people will understand the principles of cooking the meals. So if the organization are able to manage and provide them with the cooking workshops, will also make them more connected with the food. That is something I think it's very important, because as I said, availability is too much. People have lost the connection with the food, and this will bring them back to the roots of what basically food is. It's nourishing, it's calming, it's what we are what we eat. It's a very common saying. So I think that will help. Flexible lunch breaks, I would suggest. I would give an example. When I first came, in Singapore, I was working with somebody, and they provided the employees with 30 minutes of break. And it was too short of a break, because you have to go out, sit, have the lunch and come. You ideally get 15 minutes to eat. So you end up chewing it down. And then I had to put a request, no, this 30 minutes is not working. And, we need maybe a little bit more time, because we found that it was a very less of a time. And I think a person who feels that employees feeling that they don't have enough time, they might put on request also to have a flexible lunch break, or to have increased lunch time for them to have a better boost of energy to get back to the work. And I think mindful resources can be provided by the company by giving or encouraging the employees to take, increase their employees with certain texture books about mindful eating, or certain apps are there nowadays. What is mindful eating, to encourage them to do that. And they can also maybe do certain kind of quizzes or, interactive sessions about, how was, after they conduct any kind of a talk, how was it, how they have implemented it. That I think that builds up the connection between the both the parties, and at the same time they will feel more connected, that they will understand that food is definitely an important thing. I think this is what will be my point of view, apart from what Deborah and, Delphine have suggested. I think this is almost on the similar lines.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, ladies. We've reached the end of this. We could talk more, but we reached the end of our session. Reach of the time, sorry, we are running a little bit over time. So I invite you to connect with our speakers on LinkedIn, Dr. Dana Tiku, Deborah Marsh, and Delphine Supania-Berger. The links will be the links to their LinkedIn profile will be provided in the replay email. I'd like to mention that our next Expert Talk series webinar will be in October morning rituals, harnessing the power of habits for lasting change. And in November, unlocking the power of 2025 vibrational energy. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today and for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you,
for having
Stephanie.
us.
Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.